Hello, everyone. This is Eric from Etiquette, and today we've got a fantastic live stream for you. I just want to say welcome to everyone out there. We've got a great live stream. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes to give everyone a chance to join. For those of you who don't know, my name is Eric, and this is Etiquette, a channel for English teachers. And every Sunday at 1 p.m. GMT, we've got a live stream where we talk about teaching and English learning. So if you're new here, just put your name in the comments below. Tell us where you're from, because today we've got a fantastic show for you. Today, one of our longtime viewers, Boni-esther, is finally joining us for a live stream. And I'm so excited to have her on because I think we've got so many fantastic teachers on this channel that regularly contribute, and she has a wealth of experience, a lot of knowledge, and I always just ask her, Boni-esther, you have to come on and talk a little bit about your experience because it will be so useful. So if you're there, just put your name in the comments. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes before I let Boni-esther on so that everyone can join. Well, let's see. Our first person here, Ulfa, you were number one, and I said, Ulfa, hi. Kelly, hi Kelly, and she says, I'm Bono's daughter teaching ESL in Southeast Asia. Excited to watch, first time viewer. And then she says Bonnie's daughter, and I thought, wow, you've got a famous parent when you said Bono. No, well, welcome Kelly. I'm so happy that your mom's here and that you're also supporting. So guys, just put your name in there and we'll chat. Kelly says thanks. Yajaira, good morning. Hi, I love that sun icon. And Renee, how are you doing, Renee? Abu, hi. And Kelly says, woohoo. Yeah, I'm so excited, guys, because it's been a while since I had a guest on. Every now and again, I like to bring a guest on to share some of their ideas. And this time we've got a doozy for you. Is that an expression in other places, a doozy? That's something we say in South Africa a lot, like it's something really important. Abu, you're from Indonesia. Apa kabar? And then Jular, hello, I'm from India. Namaste, it's good to have you, Jular. Again, it's so nice to see you. Christiana, good morning. Where are you from, Christiana? Right, so everyone, I'll introduce Boni-esther in a little bit. So she's a teacher. She has a lot of experience, and she also helps other teachers in teacher training. Something else about her, she can read all the comments. So if you're going to write a comment, she'll be able to read it. Hina, you said good morning, and Renee says you're doing well. That is so good to hear. One more thing, Boni-esther is also fluent in Portuguese and Spanish. So I don't know, maybe she can help me with some of the pronunciation of the names. And if you would like to ask a specific question about those languages, by all means, I think it's so great to have her here. Let me quickly see. You're from Brazil. That's great, Christiana. Fokito, hi, my dear Eric. Nice to see you and start my day here with you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Fokito. How are you doing? Abu, fine. Your Bahasa is great. And from India. Okay, everyone, without further ado, here's Luza. Hi, Luza. Good morning, all. Okay, without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Boni-esther. Hi, Boni-esther.
Hi, welcome, teachers from all over the world.
Boni-esther, how are you doing today?
Very well. It's morning here, little sunshine. I love it. Summer.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you about your experience, but before we do that, I want to ask you a very important question.
Okay.
We've got a lot of viewers that come and join us. We're a nice community, but sometimes I mispronounce some names.
Yes.
And there's one name that you told me that you can help me with, Mrs. Abiola. So how do I say that?
It's abuela, like with a W, abuela.
Abuela.
And abuela means, okay, abuela, repeat, abuela?
Abuela.
Muy bien, abuela, sí.
Abuela.
And do you know what it means?
I think I do. It's grandmother?
Yes, so I am una abuela también, so it means grandmother.
Abuela. Okay.
Abuela.
Abuela. I already
Abuela.
did it wrong. Abuela. Abuela. Okay, I'll remember the W. Okay, and then we've got Ellie here from Indonesia,
Oh,
and
welcome.
your daughter Kelly is here too. And she says, 2 daughters who became ESL teachers. You've inspired 2 daughters.
Yes.
Was that an accident?
Well, your children are usually a little rebellious, so they kept saying, "I don't want, that's your thing, mom, and don't put that on me, and I want my own life." But I win. So they both became inspired, and Kelly's learning a Asian language that's very hard and a tonal language, and my other daughter is really good at Portuguese and Spanish.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me quickly just say hello to some people here. Lucy, hi Lucy. Adiba, hi Adiba. How are you doing? Andrew, hi Andrew. Kelly says, haha, against our will, but we were really inspired. Okay. Well, Boni-esther, can please introduce yourself, your experience. How did you become a teacher?
Okay. I've been in the teaching field for a good deal of my adult life, where I started off just volunteering from time to time in my daughter's classrooms, and then teaching like at Vacation Bible School. And then I started volunteering, teaching Spanish. I knew this much Spanish, but that was more than students do.
How old were you when you started volunteering?
25, 26. And then I ended up, a school had announced that they had bilingual students. I live in, can they guess where I'm from? We played that game before. Where do you think I'm from? So.
Okay. Everyone except for Kelly, please guess where Boni-esther is from, because if you really come to the live stream, she puts it in there every time she joins, she puts in where she's from. Okay, so 26.
So I saw something on television talking about a bilingual program in my city, and I was wondering maybe I could just help. And before the week was over, I was in there teaching. I was helping 2nd grade and 4th grade students from Guatemala and El Salvador learn math. And so I encourage people just to try stuff out. And then that led into becoming a real a real Spanish teacher. And I was first not paid, then I was paid, and then I went to help out another local school, and they said, if you learn Portuguese, we'll give you a job. And so I studied Portuguese not too far from me, and I just learned it very quickly because the grammar is very similar, Portuguese and Spanish. And so I became a teacher, and then I got licensed to teach ESL, and that was how my teaching career began. But I loved the newcomers. Mostly I had the newcomers.
Well, I think what's really nice is you say that it started from a point of volunteering, and it's interesting how many teachers start their careers because they care about people and they try and help.
Yes.
Okay, and so you started teaching. You started with math, and then you went the ESL route. And well, let me ask you about the way that you teach now. You've been in here for a while. What is one of the biggest problems that you encounter with bilingual students that you have to teach? What is with the students? What is something that you encounter that you feel like this is a problem point?
Well, I'll say this, that now I mostly train teachers. I work with teachers to have them either teach ESL, English as a second language, for students who are here, and nobody said where I'm from.
Guys, in the comments, please guess where Boni-esther is from.
It's probably not. It's not hard. And so where were we? So now I train teachers. So, but with bilingual students, so my teachers will either be teaching ESL students together, and they might have, in my particular context, a lot of Spanish speakers and Brazilian Portuguese speakers and some low incidence languages, or they're helping their ESL students in their content classrooms. So I have 2 kinds of contexts. But of course, when students are in a classroom with the same language group, they just want to talk their own language for a good deal of the time. So it's we've talked about that before on live streams in terms of how much of the native language do you allow in class. And when the concepts or the tasks are ridiculously difficult, then expect that they'll need to convey themselves, to express themselves a little bit in their own language. But when we're trying to teach English as a second language, we have to insist on that. So hopefully we make tasks that they can have a good entryway. Not if it's too hard, they'll need their native language to support them, or someone will have to clarify for them in their native language to kind of help them with the task, right?
So it's a lot of non-native students that come to the US and they have to learn and work their way into, or learn how to use English in their communities and in society. I think that's very interesting. I haven't had that experience. I've always taught abroad, and I think that's a little bit different, where when they're in the US, they need to learn a lot of different skills that they might have to learn when they're in their home countries. So most of your students, where are they from?
I'm Sylvania.
Oh,
right.
Yes. By the way,
yes,
Sylvania, you're correct. Well done, Sylvania.
Yes. I'm from Massachusetts. I know you want to see the classic Massachusetts is from the Harvard Boston accent, and they say "Pack your car in Harvard Yard, park your car in Harvard Yard." But I wasn't born and bred there, so I don't have that Harvard Boston accent. You'll have to listen to Ben Affleck and Damien and.
Actually, I had a friend from Boston. He was teaching here. He's also a teacher, and I just loved his accents. And where we as South Africans, where we always heard the Boston accent was Boston Rob from Survivor.
Oh,
Boston Rob from Survivor.
Yeah.
So we always watch that, and that's where I heard my first Boston accent. Okay, we've got a lot of viewers on here. Here, Nora, your mom's here too. Boni-esther is my daughter. Hi, abuela. Abuela. Why can't I say it right? Abuela?
That was right. Muy bien.
Okay.
Muy bien.
Abuela. Hi, abuela. Mrs. Nora Quinn. Hi. And then we've got a few viewers here. Kai Ravi. I'm so bad with names these days. Julia, Thrifty, and Aurelia. Okay, now, have you ever had an experience of going abroad to teach English?
No, but I teach people, but I've visited classes in other countries, in Brazil and in Latin America, but I also teach. I do have private lessons where I teach people who are learning English, and I teach some English people who are learning Spanish. So I still have contact with one-on-one students, but primarily I train teachers. But that difference between the foreign language, when you're isolated, right? Your students in Korea, you might be the only. Well, they watch a lot of TV. They watch a lot of movies. They have a lot of media. But if you're their teacher, you have to be a little bit more systematic, and you have to go back and spiral back to concepts because you're the one putting the English in their head.
Definitely. Whereas, because even if they get it from the outside, it might be incorrect. Like a lot of Konglish words, that they have an English origin, but the way that they pronounce it or write it down or something or use it might not be correct. So I've constantly got to check for things like that. Okay, by the way, guys, please put your questions in the comments if you have any questions for Boni-esther. And then, Boni-esther, can you tell us a little bit about, so you train a lot of teachers. So you help the teachers with their classes. Can you tell us about a bit about your busy week, how you spend it?
Well, because of COVID, all of the courses that I used to run, I write courses and run courses, had to be put online. So I spent this last year putting them all online. And now, of course, we have the reverse. I have to take those online activities and put them back into the classroom. And I mostly write curriculum, and I have office hours with people where I problem solve with teachers. Like I saw a question here about teaching young children.
Younger children. Yeah.
So I made a little video for that school for them to disseminate, to say, this is what you focus on with little kids, and it's vocabulary and short phrases. It's things that they know, but it's repeating a lot, right? This is a ball. This is a ball. Is this a ball? Yes, this is a ball. So we teach the affirmative, this is a ball. The negative, this is not a ball. No, this is not a ball. And then we teach the questions. Sometimes we forget to teach questions. Is this a ball? And for older students, you could say, would this be a ball? Right? So you want to focus on that. Lots of vocabulary, and beyond your regular, beyond just ESL, like more can be better.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so Adiba, this is a great question that Boni-Esther just answered. Is how do you teach young learners English? So focus on vocabulary, short phrases, and then also ask them questions, the affirmative. So I think, when you work with these young kids, it's very much like being a mom and asking them questions and interacting.
Yes.
And helping them touch things and repeat things.
Yes.
Chants, I think, very important.
Yes. And making a game of it. In fact, I'm like the world's best Zoom grandmother, because I'll hold something, goes, I love this green thing, and they're like, no, it's not green. So it's playing games. It's evoking language out of them. So a lot of game play like that. Hi, Paul. Bom dia.
Paul. Hi, Paul. And we've also got Jean here. He says, he's actually got a question. So he says, hello, everyone. What can I do to improve my grammar skills and find more resources?
Yes.
Okay. So I think recently I've had a lot of questions on the show about grammar, how to teach grammar, how to learn grammar. What is your opinion on teaching grammar? How should that be done?
I like to embed it, like to have a phrase that students would use many times, and then make it more sophisticated. Like, can I have this? Would I be able to have this? Would you give that to me? So we want to develop it over time. I don't know if you've seen, and I don't know if we can talk about, but 7 ESL is a place that I go to, 7 ESL, to find grammar. Like, I'll just pick a topic, and they give you these wonderful infographics at the bottom, and for you to get familiar with those first. Another thing is, I don't know if anybody is familiar with jazz chants, but jazz chants from Carolyn Graham was the one who has that. She has some YouTube videos, and I would find a phrase and I would turn it into a poem. So what's something that your students always forget, Eric, in the class, when they always forget?
Okay,
you're tired of it.
Singular and plural. So
no, I mean objects when they come to your class.
Yeah. Well, what do they forget? Okay, so let's say pencils. They forget their pencils.
So I make this little poem. I could have brought my pencil. Could have brought, right? What effort would that take? I could have, but I didn't. And that was a mistake. Then here's the grammar. I could have, would have, might have, but hey, give me a break. And we repeat that. So there's a lot of ways you can embed the teaching of grammar that a student might not even be ready for, but you're introducing it in a natural, meaningful, fun way. And then eventually the kids are doing that. When somebody forgets their pencil, they're going, you could have brought your pencil, right? So
I love that.
I love that. Shortcut around that.
Making learning fun. And also, with these by using this jazz English, basically a couple of days later, it might still be stuck in the student's head, because they learned it.
Yes. It's not important always to say you're learning the present perfect. It's not even useful sometimes, and it can turn them off. So there's lots of ways around that.
Something I found a lot, especially when teaching in Korea, a lot of the Korean English teachers, they focus so much on getting the grammar right. And yes, it's important, but I think they put too much of an emphasis on knowing exactly what the grammar is. But then again, you get a lot of native speakers that come to teach, and they have no idea why the grammar is what it is. So I think there is supposed to be a balance where you understand everything and you're able to teach it, but you don't need to teach everything, or give all the information to your students.
Yes, and I would say with a lot of teachers I work, they really struggle with this. Because it's kind of downplayed sometimes, because it could be that we're putting more emphasis in the United States on, did you just understand the content? But we really want to systematically, but not step by step, this is the next step and this is the next step, because language development doesn't happen that way, right? So there are a lot of people who are afraid of it, but so find other ways.
I do like to teach it a little bit, because I think it's important. Well, I not a little bit. I teach it all the time, and I make sure to have at least one element in my classes that I can teach the students, and that they can feel like, wow, added a little brick to my English learning. You know,
Yes.
that's the way I feel like the students should
Yes.
go away from
Yes.
class.
Ellie has a good question. Want to read that one?
We've got a couple of good
tons of them.
questions,
Go ahead.
but here
Let you
is
do your
one I
job.
really wanted to ask. I rarely get Twitch viewers, and here is a great one where he asks, my question is, if you were to remove a single item of literature from existence that you would feel would set us back in regards to literature, what would it be? So if there's one book that if it was removed from the world, it would really set back literature. So that's an interesting question.
Yes,
I like
and
that.
I would say I'm a language teacher more than literature. I'm not a literature teacher.
Do you have a favorite book?
Well, my favorite book is the Bible, so that it's a faith-based book. But in terms of the so I don't get a chance to read and enjoy literature, but everyone has their own thing, right? How would you get rid of something? So I don't know. You obviously have an opinion, formal foundation.
I think so.
But I think there's so many books that are models for stories, like Cinderella, Les Mis, the stories. So I don't know.
They borrow from each other. But
yeah,
no,
themes.
it's true.
So I don't know.
I feel like the one thing is we know how valuable reading is, but sometimes we get so busy with other things that we don't have enough time. So I just do audiobooks all the time.
Yes.
So this is the question you were talking about from Kelly. Do you ever correct pronunciation on the spot? If so, when? When wouldn't you correct pronunciation?
Yes, fabulous question. And why wouldn't it be fabulous? My daughter asked it. So, but I would say this: when it's incomprehensible, we lived with some Koreans for a year. It was so much fun. Aside from kimchi having its own refrigerator downstairs, we were not going to have kimchi be on the same floor as us. But the word results. The scientists who live with us use the word results. It sounded like dessert. I mean, like dessert. And so when it's for comprehensibility, then I would repeat it by echoing it back. But when you do targeted practices, you need to practice. So like I was thinking about, in English, we have the I sound, short I, and it doesn't exist in a lot of languages. In Spanish and Portuguese, it doesn't exist. So to be able to say, well, it's not beat, but it's bit, it. And so like I would distinguish like with beat.
Oh, that's not with the elastic.
Bit, beat, bit, right?
I think it's so important. Sometimes we're afraid of overcorrecting because we want them to gain confidence.
Absolutely.
And we want them to practice fluency. And in those cases, then we're not going to correct them immediately. Maybe we'll repeat the word afterwards. But I found that there are some words that Korean students say wrong. And then when they do that, I tend to make sure to tell them, listen, if you make this mistake, I'm going to fix it for you. So I think if it's important, because too many teachers have left them to just continue saying it that way. So in that case, it depends if it's important and what your aim is, right?
Yes. And so we have this term we call fossilization. Fossilization is to take a habit and it's so ingrained in you, and it could be a bad pronunciation, non-standard pronunciation. And so to address that, but I think an invitation to say, may I help you with that? I was at a Brazilian restaurant recently, and they kept saying one word, and maybe I'll remember before the end of our time together. And it was like, you're all saying it. May I help you? Actually, I said, may I help you? And I told her, we say it this way. And then she was like, thank you. And by the end of the time, she gave me her phone number and said, can I talk to you? I might need some help with English. So
that's great. Yeah, I feel like, sometimes the lessons we teach our students, the things that are really practical, they are so grateful for that, because they know that, wow, maybe this was a sticky point and someone finally helped me. And I think it's like that if I was learning Korean and I was using a word in the wrong way or pronouncing it wrong, maybe everybody's just being nice to me, so they're not going to correct me. But if one person comes and says, well, Eric, this is the way you do it, I'm like,
yes,
thank you.
Yes, I will tell you, I gave a lesson on some students, and there was a new boy from Brazil in my class. And at the end of the lesson, he goes, "How come everybody was He spoke to me in Portuguese. How come everybody's talking about their father, but how come everybody's talking about their father being dead?" And I'm like, "What? No, their father's dead." And it was the word dad, right? Dad. And so in his head, he had this Velcro of death, and his father had passed away, actually. And but so he's putting it to the wrong word, but it was him not understanding the use of dad and the word and dead, right? And dad has that American English.
I just had this question pop up, and by the way, let me just quickly say, my mom is here too, and she says we've got the family here. She says hi, and all the teachers. I'm Eric's mom.
We love our mom.
Yeah, we've got many questions, so I'm going to go down, but I've got a question for you. Recently, a lot of English teachers have talked about accents, and that your accent can actually have an impact on your professional life.
Yes.
Right. It portrays an image, and some teachers said no, this isn't correct. And other teachers said, well, you do want a better pronunciation because it will affect the way people see you. What is your opinion on this?
Okay.
And I'm going to go through the comments.
Yes, you'll read. In America, we tend to view this. Not everyone, of course, but a British accent is more of a prestige accent. So back a number of years, I would kind of pay attention and realize a lot of the commercials were British. Or if you wanted to hire somebody at your multi-international company, you would hire somebody with a British accent. We think of them as, it's a little bit more formal and educated and sophisticated. But I would also say, it's really what people want. How far do they want to take their accent? I love sound and accents, so I want to be corrected, and I still have a few things in Portuguese that I do categorically poorly, that I need more support. But people can choose to not be, to maintain their own accent. It's cool. It's cool to hear someone with an accent. But people can be prejudiced against that. And in certain jobs, it would be, preferred that someone would have a more standard accent. And so it's a tricky thing, but don't feel like if your accent is not perfect, you can't be a teacher of ESL. Untrue. But recognize that and still try to work on it. If you feel like you're advertising yourself as someone who's proficient, then you should be able to distinguish two words because you're saying them correctly. That would,
definitely. Yeah, I think that's an important point to add in here. Yeah, we've got a lot of teachers in here. Hi everyone. If you have any questions for Boni-esther, she's joined us this week for a live stream.
John.
Yeah, John has a really good question. He says, why is it so difficult to be fluent in English? Now, I thought another good question is, usually when we teach English, or teach any subject really, you have your students for a limited amount of time, and you try and help them improve as much as you can. But have you ever had a student for a long time where you could see that growth, where they went from maybe beginner to advanced? Or have you ever had that experience of seeing someone grow a lot until they're very fluent, at least?
Most of my context is in the English-speaking world. So I think if a student has a huge vocabulary and literacy skills and have done a lot of reading and writing in their first language, English is much easier. Any language is much easier because I don't have to teach the concepts. You understand the concepts. If you have a language that's closer to English, Spanish and Portuguese have a ton of and Italian, French, Romanian have all these cognates. So if I say education, they had educación, or they have educação, and they can read the words. You get to Vietnamese and you're trying to find words and there's no cognates. So there's some languages which are they're shortcut. It's about the language distance, right? So that's significant.
I think there are some levels to it. I don't remember what the levels were. They say that they've got these tiers where level 1 might be something like Spanish, level 2 might be German, level 3 might be one of the Asian languages, and 4 and 5 Chinese and Japanese.
Distances from English, right? But fluency is pronunciation, it's stress Like to say, if I said results, you'd be like, what? No, results, results, results.
Wow.
So we have the stress, we have the pronunciation, and English, we have this horrible thing we do with vowels, which is spell them any way we like,
Exactly.
and it's horrific. And so I have a little tip, like the ah sound, ah in English is, it's not ah, it's ah. So I say hat, but this is a letter A in sign language, A. So I go
Yep.
hat, cap. I put it up here, at, cat, map, right? Happy. And it's a distinct sound. And then I have the eh sound, like hand, hand. So it's a eh. So we have two sounds that we use a lot, and neither of those sound like our traditional short A. So our vowels, I'm sorry for our vowels, please. On behalf of English language, I beg your pardon. Spanish has 5 beautiful vowels spelled the same way. There's never any exceptions, but our vowels are beastly. So that fluency, how you attack a word, and you need to be practicing, repeating.
The fluency, recall, but I think for most students, when they're very advanced, C1 and they want to get to C2, that's where they need someone to work with and can just iron out those small difficulties, because they understand the language, they can speak it, they've got a broad vocabulary, but then it's just these small things that the last 10%.
And it's the synonyms, because it's the broadening out the vocabulary. So I make a statement, I make a remark, I make a response. There's a lot of ways. We have a lot of synonyms for words, and sometimes we have, like in Spanish, might use one word lots of different ways idiomatically with different particles and things like that.
I would also watch out. I think some of the advanced students I've seen, they enjoy using synonyms and more complicated words, because they have that knowledge and they try and use it, but then it sounds strange when it's used in the wrong place, or in the wrong format. But here we've got a fantastic question that I really want to look at. And hi Kuong, Sylvania, Nakben, hi. Nakben, I'll get back to your question in a second, but I want to answer this one first. I'll go check it out now. Q King, hi Q King. Okay, now I think this is very good, because you teach one-on-one students too, and I think this is a question I get a lot, is how do you teach someone to speak better, to be a better communicator? Now, Jazer, he asks, do you teach grammar? Do you just talk to them? How should I teach her? She's 12. She's in the 6th grade. So this is I love this question.
Yes. You can't just have conversations, because it's too random and it doesn't build. And if they're paying you for money, they should be able to see and measure the progress. But what I'm using now, I use WhatsApp, and I will actually record certain parts of a conversation. Like I'll pick up my phone and I'll send it to them immediately so they can practice those structures. So when you kind of go off a curriculum idea, how will you remember? We need to practice that again. You can't just do it today, and we need 8 to 10 minimum times with a vocabulary word. So I want to see the question again.
Sorry. I understand. I'm going to add to that right now too.
Please.
I'm just keeping Nakbens here. But so I know exactly what you mean. It's like learning a language is like drops in a bucket, right? It's difficult to count every single drop. So what you can do is you have to have a way to measure and to show them as evidence what they've learned. So if you say that you're going to learn about this topic, then at least write it down, write down what they will learn, what grammar, what vocabulary, so that, and then keep record of it. Because at the end of a couple of weeks, if your student thinks, what did I learn in class today? They're not going to remember every single class. But then you can say, you learned this, you learned this, and then they're like, oh, wow, that's fantastic. Yes, I did.
Yes. So 25 minutes a week is a really short period of time.
Very short.
So you have to do some fun stuff, but some systematic stuff. So what is that?
How would you, so 25 minutes, very short, how would you structure that lesson?
A little bit of fun. What did you do yesterday? And here, let me add some words that you might need. Like, well, I might say it this way, but write it down. I do these online, so I put the chat and I save the chat for and mail and just send it off to them. But somehow document where you've gone, but then have a structure of something you pick. And it could, for sure, a grammatical structure and then a small body of vocabulary based on the
I like
topic.
that. I like that.
One vocabulary, and then doing it the 3 ways:
Mm.
affirmative, negative, and in question format, but it's one format.
Very nice.
Like a
Yeah,
modal.
I think so too. You know, you want to start in a fun way. You can even review what you did last time.
That's it.
And then the great thing about doing it online is that it's so easy to just send them the chat log. So they've got all that information, and their parents too. They can go over it. Yeah, so I think it's not just, so like we said, it's not just grammar. It's not just talking to her. It's a combination and using the affirmative, question, and negative. Okay, I hope that helps, Jazer. And then, not Ben, you actually have a really nice question here. She says, how should we teach grammar meaning to make it easy for learners? That's a nice question.
I think when you say grammar meaning, it's like it's usefulness. Like if I wanted to teach a modal, I would like, or I could go. So it's repetition in a context that's helpful for them. So that's the easy way to do that. The hard way is to say we use this, blah blah blah. But you do need to, like, when I teach present tense, I'll say I go to the store. I'm going to the store. I reinforce it with my hand. Yesterday I went to the store. I just put like that. I have gone to the store. I had gone to the store. I use my hands to kind of show this time continuum.
I wish I knew that for the TPR video. That's fantastic.
So I'd say I had seen that movie many times before it came out. So I would use this to kind of reinforce the times. But sentences that can be popped in and popped out with a fun topic.
So I think you touched on something. Make it useful for them. Now there are 2 ways to do it. I mean, you can give them the grammar rule, and then you give them examples of how it's used, or you can give them examples and let them figure out what the rule is. And then, so you want to give them examples. You want to practice it with them to make sure they understand how it works. And then you want them to use it in context. So you maybe use it tell them to make a conversation if it's past tense about something that happened in the past, or you're going to do an activity using modals, you know? So, perhaps, one of you is a genie, and what would you wish for if there was a genie? I would wish for.
Love it.
That's really nice.
Helpful.
Okay. Well, we've got many here, guys. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Let me ask you a little bit about you. What is something important going on in your life now? What is something that you're focused on, that you're busy with at the moment?
Well, in my professional life, I'm seeing teachers are beat up. They're really hurt. This last year, with so many people going online, teachers were like, I'm great with one-on-one students. I can read their body language. I can come by and touch them on the shoulder and encourage them. And then all of a sudden, teachers were told no. And we're in America, a lot of the ESL teacher roles got very blurred. And initially, our whole country was saying, let's just not have them regress. When we might not teach them new things, but can we support them in the most important measurable content areas? And unfortunately, that's math and English language arts. So teachers got lost, and they tried to reinvent themselves, and they all have learned, but they're exhausted. So now this summer, I'm meeting with people who are now ready to okay, now I'm ready to think about how I might want to start the new year. So that is, I'm really busy writing new courses, and to reflect some of the signs of our times right now, and social emotional learning.
Are you surprised that there isn't more support for teachers, especially during these trying times? I've gone on many websites and on Facebook and Reddit and places where teachers are just talking about, maybe their frustrations, maybe, they're just exhausted. But I'm surprised that, in these days, that there aren't people that support them, or schools aren't doing more to help them.
Yes. Well, I will say this, because it was such an emergency situation, the priorities changed. And in our situation, access to instruction. Do I have a Chromebook? Do I have decent internet? We've had places where they've sent trucks out, buses to be hubs so kids could get online. Are kids able to go online? Are they living with too many people in families because people needed to live together because of childcare? Mom had to quit her job. There's so many new things that happened that we never were addressed before. In some ways, it was ridiculously difficult for but some kids excelled at it. They excelled at it because they didn't have to compete. Because if they were online, they didn't have to wear the same clothes as everybody, and maybe they don't feel as cute as someone else. So there was a lot of emotional struggle, traumas in families, in schools, and teachers. So I would say support. The leadership had their own fires to fight. They were told, you need to do this. How are you making sure you have access to the curriculum? How are you making sure that kids who aren't sick don't go to school? The nurses said their roles turned from, I'm the helper and you like to come to me and I rub your belly and let you take a nap, from I'm the person who's at the door saying, go home, and mother and dad, everything changed. Everything. So I think we all went through such a learning curve. Not all teachers, of course. Some teachers, some schools still had regular classrooms. But there was so many other factors, everybody going through their own thing this past year.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, things might get back to normal in a couple of years. We don't know how long it's going to take, but we hope to, because obviously it can't continue like this. But let's continue with the questions. Let's change the topic a little bit. Sylvania, being correct, she asks a very interesting question. She says, how would you advise me to teach literature and theater in English class? Do you have any theater experience?
Well, I've written it's a long story, not to talk about now. But I will say this. It's in English class. If I'm teaching ESL, English as a second language, I want to make sure my students are learning vocabulary, grammar, idiomatic expressions. So it's always a function of time. So introducing literature and going too deeply into literature, it will be at the expense of like you'll be learning words that are archaic or unnecessary to learn. So it's always a timing thing. So I watch teachers do it, but I would say judiciously, picking a small amount of time to do it. But certainly play. Like I was reading Harry Potter with a student. I'm reading the book Harry Potter, but then there was a version that was more in play format with a script, and that was a nice way to work on the language of dialogue. And so I would say go for it, but consider. What's your goal? If your goal is literature and other things to expand off of, fine. But then, if you want to, just
I would also say have fun with it. I think students, they're very serious in many places, but in literature and theater class, have fun with it. And also it's a great opportunity for students to take on different roles. Perhaps you've got someone shy and you say, well, you're playing a character now, so now you can't be shy. Got to be talkative. So just have fun with it. And I think, as with any subject that we teach, there should be some kind of goal behind it. So if you're doing theater, you do a fun book, but have something that at the end of the experience that the students and you can look back and say, well, how did we do and how did we progress? I think that's very important. Let's see, we've got so many people here. Nakben, so we answered your question. I hope you enjoyed it. Jazer, we did yours. Ellie had a question. Where is that? Okay, here is one. I like this. Ellie, this is a nice question I also want to answer. We don't speak English in Indonesia. When I met a tourist, I was so nervous to start a conversation and I ran away. Why does the accent make me confused and I couldn't answer anything they asked me?
It's the accent, it's the speed, right? So sometimes it's like, can you separate your words? That's helpful. But I did have a friend from Africa, and he spoke 5 languages, and he came to the United States, and he would go to the store in New York City and give them and buy something, and they would ask him a question. He would just run away. He was 35 years old, a grown man. So it is it's traumatizing, and I've experienced that many times. Or I've answered incorrectly because I thought I heard one word, right? Like I had
Yeah.
a student, he was running in the hall, and I said, "Are we supposed to run in the hall?" And he said, "Yes." And I go, "Are we supposed to run in the hall?" And he goes, "Yes." And I go, then I was getting angry. And then I said, "Why did you say that, Pablo?" He said, "Because I didn't want to lie." He
Uh,
heard Pablo run in the halls, and he was like guilty as
yes, it
charged.
was.
But supposed to is the
Mm,
big meaning of that expression,
right.
right?
And
So
often, so
silly.
you know, even as a teacher, we can get it wrong. Imagine you're just a tourist, you're going around.
Yes,
A lot of non-native, or a lot of native speakers, they don't think about um, how they're saying something or how they're communicating. If is it too quick? Now, I believe that one of the important things is I've had students that they would study English for a couple of years, and then they go to another country and they think, oh, I can communicate,
yes,
and then they just
yes.
struggle. So I believe it's very important to teach our students tools to use that they can find useful. So Ali, something that you can do is when you speak, don't be afraid of a native speaker, a tourist. Go up to them, be friendly. You don't have to be 100% correct. You just have to understand the basic meaning. Now, if someone speaks too quickly, you can just ask them, can you please repeat that? Or can you please repeat that slowly? Use something like that. So don't be afraid. Just remember, ask them to do it again. You know, in Korean too, if I don't understand something, but I know it's something that I should be able to get, I just ask him to tell me again,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And don't be afraid of
Okay.
that. So just say, please, can you please say that again? You know,
Yes,
repeat
yes.
that.
Perfect.
We've got Vahid. Hi, Vahid, one of the hardest workers I know. Jasper, check out the GPA. Ulfa, in structure, I'm lucky as an Indonesian. Well, we've got lots of Indonesians today, Ulfa.
Yes.
And Bahasa have many structures. Yeah, and Kezia was also here. Jean says, sometimes I feel stuck and a bit discouraged. I think, how do you motivate your students if you feel like they might be stuck or they you know.
So I think at the end of a session for kids to write, to a student to write what they learned is very helpful, so they can kind of cement that. And what did you get out of today's lesson? And each person shares. I think that can remind them. I'm having problems. Like I speak Spanish and Portuguese pretty fluently, but I don't understand everything. So I sometimes need to do my own listening practice. I need to put on a telenovela in Spanish, and then I read the Spanish subtitles. So I'm realize I'm missing little things. So, but for students, so we need to do that. And once we find more ways to do that for ourselves, we can share some of those with our students, right?
Well, you know, I like the idea of asking our students at the end of the class. You know, you can have an exit ticket asking them, okay, what did you learn today? And you can also ask them about the experience. But I think the main thing is the students need to be heard. I think, you know, as any teacher, but what's lovely about languages is it's all about communication. So
Yes.
you've got the opportunity to ask your students, you know, how are you doing? What did you learn today? And, you know, many of them, they might feel unmotivated in general, not just in English. And then this is an opportunity for
Yes.
you in a different language just to tell them, listen, you're being heard. I
Yes.
think that's very important.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Let's see. Uida, she says she's in class right now, so she can't do much. If you had an adult teacher, what book do you recommend? Let's change this question about books, but let's make it, have you taught adults before? Would you take a different approach to teaching adults? Because one of the questions I get a lot is, you know, how can you teach adults? And in the future, I'm going to make a video on how to teach adults. But I was just wondering,
Yes.
what is the difference? How would you go about teaching adults compared to younger learners?
The adult learner wants to know how this is helpful for them. I taught adults all this past year, private lessons, and my husband does so too. But so you want some things to be utilitarian, like for their work, but you also want to respect the fact adults, they have different kind of time needs, and they're out of the classroom. Like they're not used to maybe taking classes. But I can't recommend a book other than yeah, it's kind of like I usually work with shorter pieces of texts, but a variety. Sometimes we'll use a news article. Sometimes we'll use a narrative. Sometimes we'll use a question and answer like an interview. So it's exposing them to different ways that we use language. But I know we didn't fully answer that question. So
That's fine. That's fine. I think we're doing well. Well, I see a lot of people. I think we hit a nerve with when we were talking about the accents. Well, we didn't hit a nerve, a good nerve, a mining nerve. So basically, I think a lot of non-native speakers have an issue with native speakers coming in with heavy dialects or heavy accents,
Yes.
and it's difficult sometimes when you have someone coming in with a strong Irish accent, or someone was saying the Australians speak too quickly. What is your experience with teaching our students and preparing them for these accents?
Every St. Patrick's Day, I would just speak in Irish all day long. So, but not everybody is able to have it to do that. But we all suffer from that. And it's not just the speed, it's the way they attack the vowels and the stress. So I think we all have to say, we all can't understand it, but I can't remember the other part of the question.
Well, I found this too. One of the things that I found with other teachers that I think we should work on as teachers is, we have to be considerate about that. Because I've got other teachers that I've seen before, and their choice of language, their speed at which they deliver it to students, I feel is inappropriate. If they're in a one-on-one conversation with another native speaker, that's fine. But their word choice, the way that they, so that's why a lot of people have told me, Eric, the way that you speak English is very basic, and I agree. I think that's just the way that I speak now, but. I think we have to put in some effort as teachers to make it easier for our students, and also to get our students to feel comfortable with us so that they understand what we're saying.
Yes. And so we can ramp that up for newcomers versus for an advanced student. We definitely go different. Can make it more condensed or more expanded, more repetition with the newcomers. So I'm out of the newcomer realm right now. So I know I'm speaking much more quickly than you are. And so please forgive me for that.
You're doing fantastic. I think so. Boni-esther was a bit worried about speaking too fast, but I think you were doing fine. And I think, what do you guys think? Boni-esther, it's so great to have her on the show today. And we've only got 10 minutes left. Can you believe it? It feels like we haven't started.
Very enjoyable. Right? It's been really great reading your questions. I wish I could do everything. Talk to you.
I'm
at Eric.
Blasting around and making sure that we can read everything. One of the things is when I have a guest on, I always want you to feel like there's something that if you have something that you would like to talk about, that we get an opportunity to talk about it. So is there anything that you feel is important that you would like to discuss, something that's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm just delighted to have found you. You were a lifesaver when I was like, in the middle of the night, how do I teach? I need some games for online. And there's Eric. So there's etiquette. But I think coming up, taking your personal time today to connect with other teachers. I've made friends with different people who I've met on Facebook or YouTube and connected with them. I think invest in your craft, right? Invest in your learning, but understand that wherever you are is just fine. You have picked a profession that is self-sacrificing, and you've picked a profession that you're right out there. You have to learn, and so that's different than selling shoes. Although that probably is very hard too. So I would say congratulations for having picked this profession. I would also say if you don't know the native language of your students, you can still be an amazing ESL teacher. One of the first persons I met when I moved from being a Spanish teacher to an ESL teacher, she didn't speak any of the Portuguese or Spanish that her students did, but she had amazing classroom management. She would just quietly sit there, respectfully, and the students would all end up managing the class and saying, "Shh, come on, shh, she's listening. We need to have class." She was phenomenal. So I would say, don't pull yourself out of the game. It is certainly nice to know a few words, as in Korea, they're tickled when you can speak Korean. They want to connect with you, but don't feel if you're not a native speaker, you can't do it. untrue. So take that off of your.
I think, yeah, it's weird. Sometimes we value the wrong things. I was thinking about it before, is that the way that we see the world isn't necessarily the way that it is. You were talking about a teacher that couldn't speak, she didn't know any Spanish. I remember I had two experiences. This was one of my first years in Korea. I was working at a language academy. It's my first year here. It was a very tough year, but I think in that 1 year I grew a lot, because I used to teach in South Africa at normal schools, and then my first year abroad, it's a lot of hard work. And then we had two teachers coming in. The first one came in, and she was apparently from a very good school. She was a registered teacher. She came in, everybody was very hyped that she was joining the school. And she came in, she was quiet, and a week or so goes by, 2 weeks go by, and there are some complaints from the students, and they say, okay, Eric, go in and check her out, what's going on. And her classes were horrible. She started class, she would just start reading the book. There was a board there, the students were in there, and I knew the students, I really enjoyed teaching them, and she was just reading everything to them, and I thought, that's horrible. And, I thought that's not what a teacher is. And then another teacher came in, and she was so bubbly and friendly. She couldn't speak any Korean. She never taught a class before, but she was so engaging with the students, asking them questions, joking with them, giving them an opportunity. And the students loved going to her class, and you could see how much they grew.
Yes.
So obviously, we've got to stop limiting ourselves and just focus on engaging our students, helping them however we can.
Yes. When I went to college, I thought I might study Spanish, and I had one horrible native speaker Spanish teacher, a gentleman from Spain, and he was horrible, and that was the end of it. And then years later, I'm like, but I have Spanish somewhere in me, some need to learn, and I did. I was also wanting to encourage new teachers, when you ask about curriculum, try anything that somebody's created. It's not, you're not wasting time, you know what I mean? Because we still have to try all those ways, right? To say how we put it together. So if don't get too creative in the beginning, if you're worried about it, it's okay to stick with a curriculum. Apart from what that teacher you're talking about, because
yeah. So far we've had such beautiful comments. Everyone, I want to say thank you so much for the support and the kind comments. Saima, hi, I have a webinar. Everybody's busy, but I'm so grateful that you came. Sylvania says that we're speaking at a good pace. Sir Burst, also he's from Turkey. He says, I met some good teachers. Mrs. Boni-esther, greetings from Turkey. Merhaba, Sir Burst. And Robbie, I'm not really good. We don't care. We want you to enjoy and have fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes left. These are our last couple of minutes. What are some final things that you would like to talk about?
I do have a YouTube channel that I just made with a few videos. So it's Banana and Me. Banana means Bonnie, and Nanny, because I'm a Nana. So it's a combination of that. But if you wanted to watch a few lessons that are mostly student facing, and I get silly too. I write silly songs, and I have a funny COVID song that might be there, but that's all.
I'm so sorry. Didn't I put it's not in the link in the description of this video. Okay, guys, what I will do is I will find her channel. I'm going to put it in the chat now. And afterwards, I'm going to add it to the description. So if you come back to this video, you'll find Boni-esther's the link to her channel in there. So you've got this channel and you share some ideas. You've got two channels though, right?
Yeah. Well, one's anyway, yes. But the Banana and Me has sample lessons that are student favorite. But I'm not a YouTuber. You are the man. This is not my profession. I just needed a place to share with teachers, because teachers would just reading. They were reading books to student online, and that's not language development. You'll see that I'm explicitly developing language in all of those lessons. So feel free to share them. That's
okay. I'm definitely, I see I haven't put it in the description, so I'm going to put it in the description immediately after this. Boni-esther, I just want to say thank you so much for all the support and everything you've done on the channel. Every time I start my live stream, I get these nice messages and advice. and just a wealth of experience and all the teachers that you've helped out there. I'm 100% sure that I want you back if you have time again. I know you're very busy. But yeah, everyone, if you have any final comments for Boni-esther, it was just amazing having her on. Marcus is here. He says, hello, Eric and Boni. Great job today. I'm Bonnie's husband. Okay. Hi, Marcus. Thank you so much for joining. And he says, let's buy Eric a cup of coffee. Thank you so much, Marcus. And it's a pleasure to meet you and your wife. And Cheryl, I wish to learn more from you, Madam Boni. Not Ben, thank you for joining. Pame, useful tips. Okay, so
si uno follow nada en portugués o español hoy, pero no tenemos muchas personas que no hablan español o personas que falam portugués, más portugués aquí agora. So I went back and forth between those two languages. So
I can't believe we haven't even brought it up. Nobody asked you a question in Spanish or Portuguese.
That's
okay, well, teach us something that we can say in Spanish and Portuguese.
Well, we have buenos dias, right? Buenos dias with the
Buenos
W.
Dias?
No. Bueno.
Bueno.
Buenos dias. Buenos dias.
Wow, my lips don't want to work anymore.
Somebody should type that for him.
Dias.
Buenos dias. A bom dia. Portuguese, bom dia. Bom dia. Bom dia. Bom nasal. Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Bom dia. Bom dia.
Yeah,
you have a little Asian accent. That's good morning.
Well, I feel like, I would love to learn more languages because I've just been in Korea and I've been looking a little bit at Russian and Korean, but I've never looked at Spanish or Portuguese.
But you must, because you have beautiful vowels for Spanish. So Spanish is your next language. You have good vowels. You just have to read them right. So.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, thank you so much. Here we have Buenos Dias from Cheryl. Why can't I?
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Adiba says today a very amazing class. Silver says
my mother-in-law is here. Sorry.
Oh, your mother-in-law is here too. Hi,
she doesn't speak. Bom dia, mãe. Obrigada, mãe. She doesn't speak any English at all. So. Okay.
Wow, it's so nice, everyone here.
Obrigada, Silvania.
Everyone, I think
Mexico. Sorry.
Mexico too.
Somebody's friend from Mexico.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure, and I'm so thankful. And everyone else joining here today, thank you so much. I'm going to put Boni-esther's channels in the comments now, in the description, and join it there. Everyone, have a lovely week. Boni-esther, final words.
Blessings to you all. Thank you, Eric. This was a ball. Yes, let's do it a lot. Okay, because this was so much fun. So much fun. You're a gift. You're a gift. Thank you for your gift.
Everyone, gracias. Have a good day. And ciao. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.